Don't wait till the battle's over. Don't wait till the struggle ends. Shout now, shout now, right now. Shout now, shout now. Don't wait till you make it.
Hey everyone, this is Philip. Grab your coffee. We're about to get started. So it's Maxwell House today. I like to tell you what I'm drinking just to give you some, perspective and some ideas. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is, we talk about creativity a lot, and we talked about it a lot on this show, but even in terms of how it shapes who we are, how do we decide to either go into business? What makes us do that? I know for me, when it comes to being creative, I'm a musician. I can't really draw. But I enjoy graphic design. There are so many elements, and I actually am doing the things that I'm creative with as a living. So how do we get there? What do we do? I know a lot of people have a lot of different talents, and you and I have discussed these along the way. So today is going to be no different. We have an awesome creative person here, a business owner. So I think that that's going to be a huge perspective, because a lot of people assume that because you're creative, you can't run a business. The two don't go together. So we're here to kind of discuss that and figure out how we can harness all of our creativity and make it a way of life for us, as well as a profession. So today we have on the show Lindsay Burke. Lindsay, how are you doing today?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing great. How
I'm doing excellent. I got my coffee here. The sun's out. I mean, it's gonna get hotter, but it's the morning, so I'm chilling.
I love your energy all the time, no matter what time of day it is.
Oh, thank you. It's the coffee. Don't tell nobody.
I'm sure. Maxwell House. Oh, that's an interesting choice. What do you sample a variety of coffees on your?
I do. You know what? I'm not a connoisseur of the names of coffee. I'm a connoisseur of the experience of coffee. So I enjoy the coffee experience in trying new coffees, but I can't tell you which one is my favorite. I have no idea.
Understood.
Yeah. So I just huh?
I feel that way too. I get more stuck on the coffee experience than the coffee itself.
Absolutely. So Lindsay, you're awesome, and you're here in Yellow Springs. Now, are you from Yellow Springs?
No, not originally. I'm from Dayton, originally, but I moved here about 12 years ago. So I realize that means I'm new. But to me, this is really where I grew up as an adult, where I learned about community, where I put down roots for my family. So to me, it's home, but I'm not originally from here. Yeah.
Now, what made you come to Yellow Springs?
Well, serendipity, really. It was mostly, I had a job there in Yellow Springs at one of the restaurants when I was younger, and I didn't want to make the drive because it's a long drive from Dayton to Yellow Springs. So I decided to get a place in town, and just found that I loved it once I got there. And I found a lot of similarly minded people, more so than I had in other places. And I loved that there were so many creative people and so many just really interesting and unique people. And I felt that the Yellow Springs community gives a lot of access to know people on a deeper level. So I really appreciate those things about the community.
Well, yeah, I think having a creative, number one, an outlet, number two, a community, is huge, specifically if you're creative yourself. Now, how did you start? Because you're an artist, but how did you get into your business now? Because some people don't know what it is that you do. So tell us a little bit about that and how you got started.
Yeah, okay, so it's a funny story. I do tattoos. That's my job. So I own the studio that just opened in town because it was a great year to start a business. Yeah, I have always been geared towards the creative. My father is an artist. Growing up, does illustration and graphic design. We were always encouraged to participate in the arts. I was a musician from the time I was very, very young. And I did that all the way through college. That's what I went to college for, was classical piano. And that was my creative outlet for a very, very long time. We would draw on the side. I always liked writing. yeah, so the arts were always very encouraged. But I didn't know that my life would take that direction. I didn't necessarily expect that or plan that. And I never necessarily set out to be a business owner. I just found that that is what fit my life and would allow me to fit in that box instead of the traditional job or other things. I just didn't feel like it fit me. So I just made a lane for myself where I found room. So I came to tattooing just because I love art, but art can also be kind of isolating sometimes. When you're doing something like music or drawing, things like that, you are spending a lot of time alone.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
And that's cool. I consider myself somewhat introverted. I like my alone time. I like my personal space, but I also really love connecting with people. Tattoo experience for me gives me a chance to talk to people and connect with people, usually at really important or significant times for them. Not everyone, but
Sure.
a lot of people are having a really important experience, or they have something that they want to talk about deeply. And so it's just a lot of time to really connect with people in the time that we have together. And I find that to be one of the more rewarding parts of the job. But it also gives me time to do things like be the parent that I want to be involved in the community the way that I like to be involved. It allows me time to pursue other hobbies because I like to do a variety of things. I don't necessarily do well with doing the same thing over and over.
Okay.
I know a lot of people really value routine, but routine is not for me. So
Yeah.
It's just kind of given me a lot of space to be who I am, and I really appreciate that. I like making my own schedule. You've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs on here. I watched Kyle Truitt's episode. Shout out to Kyle.
Hey, Kyle.
Yeah, there are a lot of other people that I've been getting to know who are also business owners, and I think we have in common that we like. There are two kinds of stress, right? Being a person who runs your own business, whether you're a private contractor or you own your own store, brick and mortar, or whatever it is. We like making our own schedule. And for me, that's really liberating, but it does come with a whole different element of stress. It's just a stress that I find worth it. It fits me better than trying to fit my life into a routine.
Got you. Tattoos are something that are very specific, and some people get them kind of like on a whim, like, hey, I want to get a tattoo, but there's really no kind of purpose behind it except to get one. When you're doing, when you're meeting your clientele, do you find that a lot of people have a deep purpose and are very specific in the tattoo, or is it just more kind of a fad to have a tattoo?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because it's a really unique experience for everyone. There are people who just feel like it, or I like this, I thought it was pretty, that's it. And that's totally fine. And there are some people who are getting a tattoo for a very specific reason, often like celebrating something, commemorating something, memorializing something. They're all valid. I have tattoos that are deeply meaningful and ones that I just was a Tuesday and I felt like it. So it really goes all over the place depending on the reason and the person. The shop that I have been in and that I learned in and the shop that I run now are custom shops, which means we tailor the tattoo experience to each individual person. So when you walk in the door, you have an idea. More often than not, you have an idea. And then we work together to create the design. So I get to be very active, and it's a very collaborative process. Some shops are more geared towards things like flash. That's a very traditional thing for the tattoo industry, which means you can just walk in, point at something on the wall, and get exactly that, and go on your way.
Gotcha.
So I get less of that just because that's not at this time the type of shop that I've learned in or run. So the way that I do it is more of a custom and personalized experience, but you can have both. I know I worked for a time at a place that had a gumball machine. And you
Yep.
put your money in the gumball machine, and whatever came out, that's what you were getting tattooed.
What?
People love that.
Oh,
Believe-
really?
Yeah.
But
people
you know,
love-
well, what would you say? What would you say to? Because I want to get into some stereotypes. You know, because I think a lot of people like tattoos and they want tattoos and they're thinking about tattoos, but sometimes there's a stereotype that kind of comes, or a stigma that comes with people with tattoos. So first, I want to talk about this gumball situation. So, so one of the things that people always, huh?
It's a real thing.
You know what? And I don't know if it's sad or funny, but I believe you.
It's both.
Like, so because a lot of people, you know, they'll say, well, tattoos are for younger people, but what are they going to do when they get older and their skin sags? And that kind of goes to my mind when it's kind of like the permanency of getting something that's random. So
Yeah, had a good time, right?
So the memory placement would be, hey, there was an experience that I can attach this to, and it was very fun.
Yes, exactly. People don't usually do that just because they're like walking down the block. They're usually out with a friend or something like that. You know, it's like an event and they're having a great. When I see people do that, there's usually a lot of interaction between the people. They're making their own memory, and whatever the silly little tattoo is their way of keeping that memory. So
gotcha. It's kind of like, it's almost like, well, kind of generically, it's almost like piercing your ear with your friends.
yeah, except that goes away if you don't want it anymore.
So tattoos don't go away.
Right. Well, they're not supposed to.
Okay.
Yeah. So getting into the stereotypes type of thing, there are a lot of them. We've run into that just even trying to open a business. You know, not everyone understands, and some people bring misconceptions to the concept and to the craft of tattooing, and that's okay. Those exist, and they usually exist for some sort of reason. But not every shop is the same. Not every tattooer is the same. Yeah, so it really behooves people to do some research on just the variety, because there's a high level of professionalism in tattooing, but there's also a lot of wildness that happens too. So I don't blame people for being skeptical, but
Yeah.
but some of us are just like really cool professionals that are trying to do art and make memories.
Yeah, that's that's awesome. While we're talking about stereotypes, for you, you said you have a number of tattoos. Why do you think there is such a, I don't know, a stigma, or do you think there is a stigma that people have against people when they see them with one or numerous tattoos?
It's less of a thing that people deal with now, I think. Tattoos are also a global cultural thing, and they mean different things in different parts of the world. And that has to do with how the culture grew up around tattooing. Almost everywhere on the globe has some traditional form of tattooing. And that looks different places. For instance, Japan, it has a very specific and cultural meaning. There's a lot more stigma around it there. Other places, it's just part of your culture that you get tattooed. So, I mean, in America, tattooing started very much, or it got popularized really, mostly on military bases and things like that, with the like sort of Sailor Jerry style. It's called American Traditional. So that's where you see a lot of those shops. And it used to be kind of, there was like a specific type of person that got tattooed. And I think a lot of that kind of older ideology still carries over.
Sure.
I'm seeing less and less of it. It's very common for people to be heavily tattooed now in all sorts of professions. I think it used to be seen as kind of the less accepted, more outside the mainstream, maybe even with a little bit of a rougher element to it. But that's not necessarily the case anymore. You talked about it being a younger person's thing, and I can tell you, like, I have given people who are 78 their very first tattoo, and it was really
Really?
possible. Yeah, yeah. And that's not even that uncommon. And the thing you said about what happens when you get old and you're wrinkly, we're all gonna get old and wrinkly, Philip. It's just we're all, some of us are gonna be very decorated when we get there.
Ooh, I like that. Some of us are going to be very decorative. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Because I hear when people, because a lot of times you'll hear the stereotype, even if you're not the person that they're stereotyping.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and you'll probably hear it more so because that's just a lot of the pushback of what's going to happen if you get that and then you get older. It's either you're going to get wrinkled and it's going to look crazy, or you're going to change your mind and have regret, or, you know, those kinds of things. I'm interested to know too, from you, it seems like a very specific line of work. So how do you gain clients or attract new clients, and what does that demographic look like?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So there are lots of ways to do that in the industry. The way that I do it so far has been only word of mouth. I really don't guys. I've never bought space or done a commercial or anything like that. There's not even a sign on the door for my business.
Wow.
It's just for me, it's all been word of mouth, people referring their friends, and yeah, really based a lot in the Yellow Springs and surrounding areas. My clientele is all over the place. There's not, I could not even tell you one single commonality between all of my clients. There's all kinds of people get tattooed. You would not believe. Yeah, there's really no common ground between any of them. A lot of them are friends. I do a lot of families. So like one member of the family gets a tattoo and then their entire family becomes my clients. So that's how I get new clients and how I kind of keep clients in rotation. A lot of artists book out heavily. They'll book out several months, and sometimes they don't have openings in their schedule.
Oh, wow.
Going back to that that thing about being sort of fluid, I tend to keep it on a shorter timeline just to kind of keep more mobile for myself. But there are lots of different ways to do it. I have just found that this is the way that works for me, and at some point, I'm sure we'll be more open to the public. So far, because of COVID and things like that, and opening the business this year, we've just been doing it as a private studio. And by we, I mean myself and then my business partner, Pierre, who is a muralist, but also does tattoos and all kinds of magnificent art. So we've kept it just the two of us. We have a couple of artists that work with us in the space, but for us, it's worked to do it as a private studio, and that's great. Maybe, we have plans to open to the public so people can walk in off the street, and then we just, go from there. But so far, the pace that has worked for us is doing the by appointment thing.
And what I would probably assume is, you seem like it is very catered to the desires of what people want, and not very much, hey, flip through this book and tell me which one you want. So I would assume that sometimes walk-ins, because of that, would take a lot longer, because it's not just something that you like. I would like the one on page 3, 4 down of the moon,
Yeah.
So
Exactly. That is because we do it as a custom thing. We don't even have, there's the pick it off the wall doesn't exist in our shop, but that's not true of every shop. So
sure.
Yeah.
I got my tattoo. I'm not gonna tell you when or where or how or what the reasons were, because that's a whole nother show. But I picked mine off of the wall, but for the people outside, I didn't get it at Lindsay's studio, so I just want to make it be clear. But I had them combine 2 different tattoos, because I knew what I wanted, but I didn't see it. And this is going to go to my next question for you. Are all tattoo artists able to draw?
No. And that's
Okay.
sort of a problem.
I would say.
I don't ever like to speak negatively of others. So I just keep it to you. As an artist, you should be able to draw. It's it's literally in every moment of every day part of my job.
Mhm.
That said, not every tattoo artist can draw. And if you are looking to get a tattoo, I highly, highly recommend not just walking in and getting, well, first of all, I recommend doing it at a shop. Don't do it in somebody's living room,
Mm.
whatever. Because, and a lot of people don't know this, there are a lot of health things that go along with getting a tattoo. And you want to know that you have somebody who's going to take those things seriously and have your best interests in mind. So do your research on your artist. If you're looking to get a tattoo, look at their portfolio. So that's like work that they've done before, things that they draw, tattoos that they've done. Make sure you look at a large body of their work. Get to know them, because the energy and the connection that you have with your artist does make a difference. I have very tattoos from people that I didn't really feel a connection from, and I feel very differently about them than I do the tattoos that I got with somebody that I had a good connection with and I felt understood what I was going for. So do your research, get to know your artist, and yeah, that's what I would suggest. There's a wide variety of people out there, from extremely talented artists to people who are kind of stumbling into it, and it's not really so tattooing is really a craft, and you have to always be striving to get better at it.
Yeah, I like that.
Like any art that goes with a high level of discipline, tattooing is an art that has to go with a high level of discipline. So just get to know your artist and make sure that they're committed to that.
That's good. I do have a question. It just came to mind when you were talking, because it's very tattooing is very personal. Have you ever had a client or a situation where the tattoo was coming from a place where they may have needed kind of healing and therapy, and you were hesitant to give them this permanent tattoo because after they worked through some of their challenges or concerns, they may not have wanted it?
Yes, that is a thing, and it's a big responsibility. I have had clients that so there are things that I won't tattoo.
Okay.
And that's kind of on a personal basis. But then there are also tattoos that people have wanted, and you kind of learn this going through just through experiences. But I have had clients that I knew had presented an idea that I knew wasn't going to be good for them in the long run. If you tattoo something that keeps you stuck in a negative place, or things that indicate to me that you're not in a good mental space, then we're definitely going to talk through that and try to ultimately the client. So this is interesting. This industry, unlike other industries, the client is not always right. And if I don't want to do it, or don't feel like it's the right thing, I'm not going to do it. And that's my choice. Even if the client knows that this is what they're going to do, if it's not something that I can get behind, because it is my responsibility to make sure that my art is not hurting someone. So I'll just give a brief example. There was a client who wanted to tattoo a word in a very visible spot, and it was a word that was going to be negative towards themselves, a negative label about themselves. And you could just tell that this person wasn't in a good space mentally. If I had put that tattoo on that person, that is stuck with them forever, whether their mental state improves or not. That's the label that they're going to see and the world is going to see towards them, even if they don't feel that way anymore. And then it's getting a tattoo covered or removed. If it's something that is that deeply impactful, it's a large process, and sometimes you don't get the outcome that you want anymore. So I turned that tattoo down. graciously, of course, not like, no, this is a stupid idea, but just like, I feel like I would be hurting you in the long run by doing this to you, and I don't want to, think on it if you still need that, but just let's work on getting to a better place mentally. So yeah, that is a thing. Also, doing bad tattoos on people, that makes people feel weird about their body, So one of the things that I do, it is very much like therapy. People get tattoos in all kinds of places in life. There's a tattoo I'm working on currently that's a cover of 6 different tattoos that happened when this person was in a very negative space in their life. And it has, if that's in your skin and it's what you see about your body every day, that does make you feel a way about yourself. Tattooing is very much therapeutic, whether it's the subject matter, the tattoo itself, how you feel in it after you've gotten it. All of those are factors in my everyday job, and it's one of my favorite aspects. It requires me to think about the tattoo. It requires me to connect with people. Like I said, on deeper level, I don't necessarily do small talk types of interactions with people terribly well. So this is kind of perfect for me. It's usually one-on-one or a very small group, and we get to just really get into it with what's going on. And I really like that.
That's wonderful to know that you're talented to do the job, but you also have care and concern to get to the why, why of the job, and to be able to identify some things that you may be able to help with, even if it means that you may not have a client. Right. I think I think that's huge.
Yeah. Sometimes that's the answer. So, and that is on both sides. That's for the client first and foremost, but then it's also for my my portfolio and what I want to put my name on, because as a tattoo artist, as any artist, but as a tattoo artist, especially, your body of work and your advertisement is walking around in the world. Your advertisement is what they have to say about what you do. So I choose the tattoos. There are certain tattoos that I don't do because of the association that they will have, or the kinds the kinds of clientele that will come from having that in my portfolio. And so you kind of have to think about that and consider it. Choose wisely.
Yeah, it's so interesting that there's so many layers to something that so many people may see as something very superficial. Yeah,
it's interesting. That is a stereotype. That you get the bubblegum tattoo, or the this off the wall. That's not always a light thing, If it seems like a really simple interaction, for at least one person in that room, that is a multi-layered event. So yeah,
absolutely. So okay, so I know you don't advertise, and I'm and that's awesome. I love the boutique element of and the personalized element, how you do your business and how people find you based on word of mouth, and just kind of how your work exists out in the public, and it's a conversation piece when people see it. So for people to follow you, I think I flashed it up before, but where can people follow you just to see more of your work?
So we have, each of us have our own Instagram page. Mine is at LB Tattoo Design. If you're looking for my work, that's just a portfolio of tattoos I've done. Mm-hmm. You can find Yellow Springs Ink Art Collective on Facebook, if that's where you're looking.
Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk to us, and for us to get a more in-depth glance at how you come about your business and your creativity, and how you use it to impact people's lives on such a profound level for some.
Yeah. For most people, it's a pretty. I like to keep it fun and light, but sometimes that's not the vibe. So it's just a really great way to connect with people, and that's my favorite part.
Awesome. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about this thing that I really love.
You bet.
Yeah.
So everybody, that was Lindsay, and you're going to get the information about seeing some of her work and being able to follow her and just see what goes on. Again, we love to kind of break down some stereotypes or just kind of talk about it and get the real clarity of what actually goes on. So I'm super excited, and I hope that you found a lot of value in understanding kind of the mentality that goes behind it, how fun it is, how engaging it is, and how therapeutic it can be. All right, so remember that you are the best you in the world, and we will see you next time on The PHILLIP Show.
Don't wait.